phone be silenced, please? Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome the Mayor, all members, and our guests to the Old Town Hall, Stratford, for the Budget Council meeting. I would like to welcome the members of the public and press who are physically attending and watching on YouTube. The meeting is being filmed for broadcast on YouTube. Please note that cameras are focused on everyone within the meeting. I would like to take this opportunity to remind the public that to enable the councils to conduct its business, if there are any interruptions at today's meeting, I will ask the individual or individuals to stop and give a warning. If this continues, I will give a second and final warning. Should the disruption continue, I will ask the security to remove the person or group from the council chamber and will adjourn the meeting. Members of the council, please can I ask that you indicate when you wish to speak by raising your hand. I would like to advise members, in order to comply with the allocated time for speakers, if you go beyond your allocated time, you will be automatically muted. Please can I ask members and officers to introduce themselves when speaking. I would like to ask everyone to turn the mobile phones in silent mode. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please remain calm and follow the instruction of the town hall staff. The fire response is by Westham Lane. My mic is echoing, so can you stop that, please? Thank you. I'm now moving to item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies for absence for this evening's meeting from my Vice Chair, Councillor Imam Haq, Councillor Joshua Garfield, Mohammed Ghani, Councillor Karlin Leeper Kim, Councillor Miraz Patel, Councillor Lakmanisha. Are there any other apologies for absence for Councillor to be recorded? Councillor Jennifer Bailey.
Yes, Chair. I've got apologies for Salim Patel, Mariam Darwood, Mohammed Ghani, Lester Hudson, and Miraj Patel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jennifer Bailey, for updating that. I'm now moving to item 2. Yes, Councillor Danny.
I have apologies of absence from Belgica.
Belgica. That's been noted. Thank you, Councillor Danny Killing. Sorry, Councillor Tony Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Joel Aguda. Is there any other apologies need to be recorded? Thank you. I'm now moving to item 2, declaration of interest. I will defer the Deputy Monitoring Officer to offer advice and declaration for this meeting. Manjia Grant.
Good evening, members. Councillors are reminded that in accordance with Section 106 of the Local Governance Finance Act 1992, and as reflected in Council Procedure Rule 20.9, where any member has council tax arrears of 2 months or more that has been outstanding at the time of the meeting, that member must disclose the fact of their arrears. The members should note that they're not required to disclose the amount, and that member cannot vote on any budget or council tax setting decisions at this meeting. Members should also note that a recorded vote will be taken when determining budget items.
Thank you, Manjia Grant. Are there any members wishing to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest they may have in any matter which is to be considered at this meeting? No? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Danny Killing.
I must disclose the fact that Section 106 applies to me, and I shall not vote on any question concerning the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Danny Killing. I'm now moving to item 3, minutes of our last meetings. First, I move the minutes of the meeting of Extraordinary Council held on the 16th of December 2024. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Nielsen and Councillor Verdi. No, I'm going for the Extraordinary Council meeting. Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those against, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? Thank you. Agree the minutes? I'm now moved to the minutes of the meeting of Ordinary Council held on the 16th of December 2024, subject to recording the names of the councillors Hagging, Councillor Keeling, Councillor Mirza, and Councillor Naqvi as voting against the amendment for motion 2. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Jenny Keeling. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those against, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? The agree of the minutes. I'm now moving to item 4, announcement by the chair, which is myself. I would like to inform the council that since our last meeting, I attended around 19 public engagements in my role as a first citizen of the borough, both inside and outside the borough. This includes a number of Neeham citizenship ceremonies held at the Neeham Town Hall since November. I have been delighted to welcome 894 new citizens to our borough. During this month, Neeham has celebrated LGBTQ plus History Month, which will be concluding tomorrow on 28th of February with an inspiring evening celebrating LGBTQ history through the creative talents of young performers aged between 10 to 25. On behalf of the Council, can I congratulate members of Neeham's community who received an award in His Majesty the King's 2025 New Year's Honours. As Chair, I send my best wishes to those members of our community observing Ramadan Mubarak to everyone, which begins on the 1st of March, the start of the most significant month of the Muslims. For Muslims, making a period of daily fasting, prayers, and reflection, and I wish you and your loved ones to be a blessed and peaceful month filled with joy and good deeds. I hope to see colleagues at the Interfaith Iftar taking place on Monday, 3rd of March. I wish to offer my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Koru Gangadharan, consort of former Civic Ambassador Councillor Omana Gangadharan, for 2 terms during the municipal year 2005 and 2007, who passed away earlier this month. Mr. Gangadharan have lived in Neeham since 1969. I ask those who can to stand for a minute silence in memory of Guru Gangadharan. Thank you. Please be seated. I'm now moving to item 5, announcement by the Mayor of Ruxana Affairs. I invite Mayor Ruxana Affairs to address the council to make any announcement. You have up to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, colleagues, guests, officer colleagues as well. Tonight we come together at a critical moment for our borough. This budget demands courage, clarity, and an unwavering commitment to the people of Newham. I've lived in this borough my whole life. It's a place I love deeply, filled with extraordinary people, cultures, and communities. A borough of resilience, ambition, and hope. It's because of hope for our people that I stand here, fighting every day to ensure Newham remains a place where everyone can thrive, no matter their backgrounds, and being supported on whatever challenges they face. In local government, we have the privilege of providing public services that impact people each and every day of their lives. We clean the streets you walk on, empty the drains, the bins from your doorstep, and provide care for your families. Local government does well and truly supports from the cradle to the grave. And our mission here in Newham is clear. It's to build a fairer Newham. That means fighting poverty, tackling inequality, championing anti-racism, and putting people at the heart of everything that we do. The budget that we will be debating this evening is a reflection of those values. It's not just about numbers on a page. It's about people. The families struggling with rising costs, the elderly relying on social care, the young people who deserve safe spaces to grow and succeed. It's about preserving and protecting the services that make a real difference to people's lives. Over the past year, we have continued to deliver for our residents, even in the toughest of financial times. We have made progress by leading with determination and with compassion. And that is against 14 years of austerity that has ripped public services apart. Our commitment to building a fairer Newham has never wavered, and we've worked tirelessly to make tangible improvements in our people's lives. We've built more genuinely affordable homes, tackling the housing crisis head-on and becoming the 4th highest starter home builder of any England council in the process. We've invested in youth services, making Newham the best place for young people to grow up. We've cleaned up our streets, cracked down on fly tipping, and expanded 20-mile-per-hour zones to make our roads safe. And we've launched a cost of living support programme, helping families navigate through these incredibly difficult times. That is what fairer Newham means, not just surviving, but thriving, with a council that stands side by side with its residents. Yet despite our progress, we must be honest about the scale of the challenge. 14 years of austerity have decimated local government's finances. Councils like ours have been systematically underfunded and ignored, forced to do more with less, and Newham itself faces unique pressures. We have the highest number of families in temporary accommodation in London, over 6,500 households without a stable home. This has created an unprecedented financial burden of £100 million over the next 3 years. That is not the result of our local management of the council. It is a result of a broken housing market and a welfare system that has failed to protect the most vulnerable. Let me be clear, without these pressures, we would have been able to set a balanced budget, and Councillor Zulfikar Ali no doubt will repeat and emphasise that point during the debate. Instead, we face a £84 million shortfall next year alone, £52 million of which comes directly from the temporary accommodation crisis. We have therefore taken proactive steps as a council. We've identified £75 million in savings and efficiencies, transforming the council to be leaner, more agile and focused on early intervention and preventative approaches. This ensures we reduce costs without directly impacting frontline services. We've secured exceptional financial support from central government, a refreshing approach from a Labour government who understand the pressures local government has been facing for 14 years. For the first time over those 14 years, we have a central government on the side of local authorities. And we'll continue to work with our national government for fairer multi-year funding settlements so that we can plan and build for the future with confidence. As an authority, we have also made the difficult decision to raise council tax by 8.99%. I know that this is not easy, especially during a cost of living crisis, and we have not taken this decision lightly. You'll hear during the debate from colleagues as to the protections that we've maintained for those who need it most. An 80% council tax reduction scheme for eligible households and higher discounts for pensioners at 90%. Affordable food initiatives to support struggling families, and we'll still be delivering household support hardship funds through our Newham money, because we know that the benefits of an early intervention and preventative approach to supporting those in financial stress really does help. That is why we're looking at how we can use existing council preventative funding streams and work with partners in a more holistic way to strengthen the support we give to residents who need it, to ensure that they can support our residents who need the most help. With the increase to council tax, Newham will still have the lowest council tax in Outer London. This budget is not about getting through the next year. It's about laying the foundations for a fairer Newham for years to come. It will allow us to build more affordable homes and reduce homelessness. It will allow us to fund social care, protecting our elderly and most vulnerable. It will allow us to invest in preventative services, keeping families out of crisis. It will allow us to protect investments in public spaces, keep our streets clean and maintain our infrastructure. We refuse to be a council that simply reacts to crisis. We are transforming and redesigning the council to better serve our communities. We are investing in long-term solutions and embedding our values into every decision we make. Some may ask, should we have cut more? The unfortunate reality is that the council's financing was broken by previous governments. We must therefore continue to invest in prevention, innovation and efficiency to mitigate growing pressures and maintain key services for our residents. We cannot simply cut. And to those who suggest additional spending without credible solutions, I say this: we must be realistic and responsible. Our budget is a careful balance at protecting services, driving efficiencies, and making difficult decisions. This budget is more than a financial plan. It is a statement of intent. It is a statement of intent that we intend to sustain. And we are building a fairer Newham because together we need to move forward for that fairer Newham, for our residents and for the brighter future our borough and our people deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ruxana Fiaz. I'm now moving to item 6, update from cabinet members. Any members of the cabinet who wishes to update council will be allowed to speak. There shall be no debate or questions allowed. Does any members of the cabinet wish to speak? You will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Thank you. I'm now moving to item 7, announcement by the Chief Executive. I understand that there will be no announcement from the Chief Executive. I'm now moving to item 8, approval of members' allowance outlined from the page 37 on your agenda. As chair, I will move this report. Is there a seconder for this report, please? Thank you, Councillor Simon Rush. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? If you so, you'll have up to 3 minutes. No, in that case, I'll take the vote. We'll now move to the vote. The recommendations outlined on the pages 38 and 39. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those against, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried out. I'm now moving to item 9, final budget proposal for 2025 to 2026, sustaining a fair Newham and addressing the financial challenges ahead, outlined from page 81 on your agenda. Council should note the following appendix are attached as urgent matters to be noted. These are set out on item 9C of supplementary pack number 1 as Appendix P, updates to the 2025 to 2026 budget setting report, which confirmed the approval of the Council application for exceptional financial support and that the GLA receipt was confirmed on the 25th February. A revised Appendix J, the Council text resolution, has also been provided to correct a minor rounding error on 1 pence to some of the aggregate figures. I call upon Councillor Julfikar Ali to present the report. Councillor Julfikar Ali, you have up to 7 minutes.
Councillor Zulfikar Ali, Cabinet Lead for Finance and Resources. Good evening, Chair, councillors, members of the public in the gallery, and those respectable listeners listening online. I want to begin by thanking our Mayor, the Cabinet, Executive, Corporate Leadership Team, councillors, and the Budget Scrutiny Commission for their dedication and hard work throughout the budget setting process. This allowed me to present this administration's budget here tonight for the financial year 2025-26. Chair, we face immense pressures in Newham, yet our communities show remarkable resilience. Let us be clear, this is not just a local challenge, it is a national crisis. For 14 years, councils like ours have endured Tory austerity, chronic underfunding, and rising service demands. Despite this, we have fought tirelessly for our residents, and we will continue to do so because they are at the heart of everything we do. We care, Chair. Across London and UK, councils are struggling, some in fiscal distress, with 7 in London seeking exceptional financial support, where there were only 2 last year. We pursued exceptional financial circumstances support, not because of our weaknesses, but because of circumstances beyond our control. And now, we are no longer alone. There are many other authorities across the country who are facing the same challenges. But with the new Labour government, we finally have leadership that understands our struggles and is committed to rebuilding our public services. Already, the Labour government has shown its willingness to listen, to understand, and take action, and that was demonstrated through the local government financial settlement recently. We welcome this positive outlook and are eager to collaborate to deliver real changes for the benefit of people in Newham. Our 2025-26 budget isn't just a financial plan. It is a blueprint for transformation, balancing immediate needs with long-term investment in our community. We are committed to invest in housing and building new homes. Newham leads London with the largest housing development program, delivering 576 new homes already, and there are 656 more under construction. We stand ready to support the government's goal of building 1.5 million homes and tackle the housing crisis head-on. We are committed to protecting our streets, parks, and open spaces. We have safeguarded funding for street cleansing and waste management, and we are continuing our award-winning efforts against fly tipping. Clean streets are not just a luxury, they are the foundation of a thriving community. We are also committed to strengthening the social care and homelessness, issues that previous governments have failed to address for many years. Homelessness costs are projected to hit 52 million next year. We are increasing our prevention activities. A roof over one's head is not just a shelter. It is dignity and the bedrock of a decent society. However, to bridge the budget gap, we have had to make tough decisions. We proactively sought EFS, exceptional financial support, not as a bailout, but as a tool to manage the short-term crisis whilst working towards long-term solutions. Our asset management plan since 28 has been in place. We are using capital receipts in order to fund the budget gap, not borrowing. This is a breathing space, and because our transformation of services and a fair and new settlement in the future will help us to drive changes. However, there is no denying of the fact that we're increasing council tax by 8.99%. Some will say this is a step too far. But let's look back at the last 14 years, as I said earlier. We had a frozen tax for many years. This has potentially lost us £70 million. Though politically this was expedient in short term, it has left us exposed to the very challenges we face. Believe me, this decision was not taken lightly and with a heavy heart. I must say, the council tax, despite the fact that we're increasing this by 8.9%, we will still remain the lowest in Outer London and the 7th lowest in London across as a whole. Let me be clear. This is not a budget about burdening our residents. It's about safeguarding the services that people only rely on every single day. This increase in council tax is necessary. 2% of that goes to adult social care. Those opposing this really don't understand the pressure that we're facing. Will you ignore the rising demands to adult social care? Will you leave our streets to fall into disrepair? Will you stand by while homelessness skyrockets? I think it will be irresponsible of any administration to do that. Colleagues, being in opposition is easy. Governing is hard. Leadership is not about empty promises. It's about making tough choices and securing the future. This budget is about more than balancing the books. It is about building a 21st century council. Our transformation program will save £23 million over the next 3 years. And this is by embracing smarter operations, digital innovation, and organizational redesign. And to suggest that we should reduce the ICT budget, I think, speaks for itself. What more can I say in terms of future thinking? Every penny will be reinvested into creating a fairer, more efficient council that delivers for residents and gives them the services they deserve. And we move on, not as a victim of austerity, but champions of change. With the support of the Labour government, our local authority partners, and most importantly, the people of this borough, we are ready to build a future where everyone can thrive. This is a budget for change, a budget for hope, and a budget for the people of Newham. It is for people of this borough where every resident can stand tall, secure in the knowledge that their future is brighter, it is safer, and it's more prosperous. In the hands of course, a competent and responsible Labour organisation. With those words, Chair, I commend this budget to the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Thank you. Now I call upon Councillor Anthony McCulman, Chair of the Overview Scrutiny Committee, to address the Council. and you have up to... Sorry, my apologies. Forgot to ask Councillor Ali's report after that. Do I have a seconder, please?
Chair, I second the motion and I reserve my right to speak on my 3 minutes later on, please.
Thank you, Councillor Simon Rush. Now, can I ask Councillor Anthony McCallum to address the Council, please? You have up to 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, fellow councillors and residents of Neeram, you will see from the report that Budget Scrutiny Commission has undertaken its mandate to scrutinize the Mayor and Cabinet draft budget proposal for the year 2025-26. We considered the general fund budget, the efficiency savings proposals, and their alignment with the priorities of building a fairer Neeram. Despite limited time and resource, you will see from our report that we made strategic, specific recommendations for clear and necessary actions. However, far too many of our recommendations have been rejected. Madam Chair, this is disappointing because the budget figures are worrying. We should also not forget that the budget is balanced on the assumption that the executive will address the 84 million budget gap through efficiency savings. Even then, a deficit of 47 million is forecast. These are indications of the Council's continued severe financial pressures and the possible Section 114 notice over the 3 years MTFS period. Since we delivered our report, central government has provided Neeram Council with 67 million in exceptional financial support. Madam Chair, we did not get here overnight. And the truth is, Neeram Council is not alone in this struggle. Across the UK, local councils are facing financial pressures unseen in a generation. Whilst we may not control all the factors that brought us to this moment, we do control some of them, and we do control how we respond to them. I mentioned central government's 67 million in exceptional financial support. As our report shows, MFS is a short-term solution. As a council, we must still navigate the challenges of the 171 million MTFS budget gap, borrowing costs, and significant depletion of the reserve to prioritize essential services. Scrutiny has concluded that we cannot continue with the same level of discretionary and capital expenditures that ignore our current financial realities. The executive must summon the political will to make the necessary changes. The time has come to pause. Neeram Council needs to rethink or redesign some of the capital expenditures. Scrutiny will continue to hold the executive to account to ensure that council finances are sustainable and fiscally responsible, and that services are resilient. Madam Chair, people of this borough might worry when scrutiny speaks about fiscal responsibility. They might wonder if this means cutting programs they depend on, the services that sustain them. We on the scrutiny benches strongly believe that our focus must maintain form on the executive committing to services it can deliver and making sure that the most vulnerable amongst us are not left to bear the consequences of over-optimism. That means putting our house in order. That means making hard decisions today so that we do not face even harder ones tomorrow. That means ensuring that every pound is spent wisely, that efficiency is not a slogan, but a principle that guides our governance. It means not incurring interest payment for many years for projects that are nice to have. It means recognizing the exceptional financial support is a temporary relief. It is not a long-term solution. Our long-term solution must come from within the executive.
Thank you, Councillor Anthony McCalmont. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to conclude by making 3 points.
Councillor McCalmont, your time is up. I'm afraid I can't extend your time. Thank you. Thank you. Please note, we have received 2 amendments to this report, which are outlined on supplementary agenda. Firstly, I call on Councillor Mirza to please present your amendments. And you have up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, most importantly, the residents of Newham. Tonight, I stand before you as a proud representative of Newham Independents, the party committed to deliver real change for the people of this borough. For far too long, hard-working residents of Newham has been treated as an afterthought, squeezed by relentless tax increases, burdened by unfair charges, and let down by an administration that prioritizes bureaucracy over basic services. That ends today. This budget is about fairness, about responsibility, about putting people first. It is a budget that acknowledges the struggle our residents face and take bold action to ease them. Madam Chair, we made a pledge to restore the first resident car permit at no cost. Tonight, we deliver on that promise. We believe it is unfair to charge residents by simply parking outside their own homes. Under our proposal, the first permit will be free once again, lifting an unnecessary financial burden from thousands of families. We promised to freeze council tax. We stand firm on that commitment. Since 2018, Newham Labour-run administration has hiked the council tax year after year, squeezing household budgets and leaving families with less money to put food on the table. Enough is enough. Our budget includes immediate freeze on the council tax. Madam Chair, let's talk about so-called emission-based parking tax, a double tax on residents. First by the City Hall, ULEZ expansion, and then by this council. The Newham Independents will abolish this unfair tax and bring financial relief to the people of this borough. Madam Chair, we committed to reintroduce the free bulky waste collection to discourage the fly tipping and ensure that our streets are clean and healthy. Our children are our future. We must do everything in our power to support them. Currently, Greater London Authority only provides the free school meals to primary school children. There is no provision made for secondary school children, many of which from struggling families. That changes today. Our budget introduces free school meal for all secondary school children in Newham. No child should ever go hungry, and no parent should have to worry about affording their child next meal. Madam Chair, we cannot justify throwing money at projects that do not deliver for residents while services suffer. This is why we immediately scrapped the People-Powered Places program and redirect the funding into frontline services that make real difference. And in the name of leading by example, we propose freeze on councillor allowances, because public services should not be about financial gain, but about doing right by the people who put their trust in us. For 14 years, this Labour-run council has been giving funding excuses. Now, with the Labour government in power, we call on them to provide fair funding settlement for Newham. We cannot ignore the elephant in the room. Temporary accommodation is one of the greatest crises facing our borough. If we do not act now, this issue will continue to drain council resources and devastate families. The Newham Independents are committed to addressing this issue. We're delivering long-term solutions such as building more affordable social housing to support those in need.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed Mirza. Thank you. You had your 5 minutes. Thank you. We have Councillor Mahmood Mirza. Councillor Mahmood Mirza, you have...
Councillor Mirza, the chair has ruled. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for this amendment motion? Councillor Safia Naqvi, you have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Councillor Sophia Naqvi, Plaster North. I'm here to second this motion in support of Newham Independence Alternative Budget, because this is a budget that truly puts the people of our borough first. For too long, the residents of Newham have faced financial pressures imposed by council that has chosen to pass the burden onto them rather than making the difficult but necessary choices to manage resources efficiently. Today, we say enough is enough. This budget delivers real relief to our residents. We made a promise to restore the first resident car park permit at no cost, and today we are keeping that promise because people should not have to pay simply to park outside their homes. We also taken a stand against unfair taxation. Labour has continuously increased council tax year after year, placing an ever-growing strain on hard-working families. Under our proposal, that stops now. We will freeze council tax, ensure that residents are not faced to even pay more and when they're already struggling with the cost of living. And let's talk about emission-based parking tax, a double taxation imposed on Labour Newham residents. They are already paying for ULEZ, yet the council chooses to hit them again with local parking charges. We will abolish this unfair tax because we believe in fairness, not punishment. But this budget is not about easing financial burdens. It's about making real, positive changes for our community. That's why we are committing to providing free school meals for all secondary school children. No child in Newham should go hungry. It is our duty to ensure that every young person has access to nutritious meals, giving them the best possible start to life. We are also prioritising the services that matter. That means reversing cuts that would see vital assets like Debden Court sold off. And it means reintroducing free bulky waste collections so that residents can keep their streets clean without worrying about extra charges. We can fund these crucial policies through common sense measures, cutting unnecessary spending, freezing councillor allowances. I understand the concern raised about affordability, but let's be clear, this is about priorities. Labour administration has found the money to fund pet projects, yet when it comes to supporting our residents, we are told it is not possible. We reject that argument. Our budget is a statement of intent. It says that people of Newham come first. We also call on Labour government to do what the Conservatives failed to do, provide a fair funding settlement for councillors. Local authorities should not be forced to choose between balancing the books and providing essential services. It is time for central government to step up. Today, we can set yet another year of rising costs, unfair taxes, or financial pressures on our community. Or we can choose a different path, the one that puts the people of Newham at the heart of everything we do. I urge you to support this budget. It is fair.
Thank you, Councillor Sophia Nagmi. Thank you. I would like to remind all members to comply with your allocated time, please, in order to run this meeting smoothly. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As Councillor Ali, as the mover of this report, original motion, do you accept this amendment? Is that a no or yes? Thank you. We now move to the debate on the amendment. Members, you have up to 3 minutes each. Who's first? Councillor John Wentworth. You have 3 minutes.
Well, we've heard from the independents that they wish to abolish the emissions-based parking charge. They've made that very clear. Well, this emissions-based parking charge was introduced to encourage motorists to switch to less polluting vehicles if they are able to, and to consider whether they need a car at all. Some, of course, do need a car. It's obvious, however, you just have to go outside into the streets of Newham to see there are too many cars on the road, both congesting the roads when you're driving and restricting space when you go into the side streets. There are cars everywhere, and it is uncomfortable to get around. And this is just for space, not even considering the question of the air, which of course is key. If there were fewer cars on the road, which I believe is something, a necessity now and for the future, it will actually make motoring better for those who do need to use their cars. But the question is, does this emissions-based parking charge work? Well, we have evidence which shows that following the introduction of this charge in 2021, there was a drop in vehicle registrations in Newham that was greater than in any other London borough. It's well known and uncontested that petrol and diesel-fueled vehicles produce poisonous gases and tiny particles that contribute to various illnesses and in some cases death. Measures such as this, which reduce the number of high-polluting cars, reduce this danger to people's health. We know too that air pollution affects above all our most underprivileged residents, the young people and the old people, and measures which reduce this pollution and improve health must be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John Wentworth. I invite now Councillor Alan Griffith to speak.
Right, thank you, Chair. Councillor Alan Griffiths of Canning Town South. I've got a rhetorical question to start with for the independents. Do you know anybody who's thinking of moving house out of Newham to pay a lower council tax or not to pay a parking permit for their first vehicle? Because Newham's council tax will still be among the lowest in London, and there were 30 out of the 32 London boroughs that introduced a charge for the first parking permit before Newham did. And I was rather surprised that both speakers mentioned the ultra-low emission zone. Very few people are paying under the ultra-low emission zone. And a large part of them are people who don't live in London and bring mucky polluting vehicles into London. The main issue and problem for the council's budget this year has been the rocketing numbers of people who become homeless and are in priority need that we need to put in temporary accommodation. This has all been driven by the dysfunctional housing market in which high house prices and high rents chase each other up, resulting in a reduction in owner occupation and an increase in insecure private renting. That can be seen in the figures that anybody can look at on the council's website for landlord licensing. Even though the foolish Tory government took 2 areas out of landlord licensing where the majority of the residents are private tenants. Now, we can all hope that the increased security for private tenants that the government is bringing in very soon will reduce the number of people losing their tenancies. But I've not met anybody who claims to estimate how quickly that might happen. So we have to deal with the situation we're in. And then we look and see the figures that are in the independent proposals. And if you look at them, £18 million out of 32,390,000 is giveaways to drivers in a London borough where the majority of homes do not have a vehicle. So, and then there's the other thing, which is the thing that it doesn't add up. Now, I'm not speaking against the Greens amendment tonight, but in view of recent goings-on in Bristol and ones a few years ago in Bryan, I think the independents have made themselves look rather foolish by being less numerate than the Green Party.
Thank you, Councillor Alan Griffith. Thank you. I'm now inviting Councillor John Morris to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure what to make out of this budget because it seems quite ridiculous. So where do I begin? It's an illegal budget that leaves an extra gap of £32 million. But also, first of all, Councillor Mirza, PPE is capital funding and it is illegal to spend it on revenue costs. You can't transfer it like that. And what I would also say in terms of emissions-based parking, so to be very clear, London-wide statistics is only 8.7% of people of our cars are not ULEZ compliant. That is 9 out of 10 cars, 8 out of 10 vans. And as my colleagues, Councillor Griffith said, most of those can be assigned to people outside of London commuting into the city. This is again, I was almost speechless when I first saw these proposals. It is not a responsible budget. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councillor John Morris. Now I would like to invite Councillor Madeleine Portin to speak. And you have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'll try and come in under time. I'd like to thank the Independent Party for presenting their alternative budget to us this evening. There are a couple of things in here which we agree with and we're already doing, so I'm surprised they were in there. We also are proud to present a budget that puts residents first, protects vital services and eases the financial pressure on working families. The way in which we're doing that in particular is through the work that we do in ensuring that, and you may remember when we voted on this, by ensuring that people within the council who are our employees and people that work with our contractors are paid at least the London living wage. That is a significant step that we have taken to ensure that families have the cash in their pockets so they get the choice of where they spend it and they have the independence to manage their own finances. We were one of the leading boroughs to introduce free school dinners. We did it for many years before the London Council decided to take up a policy that we had put forward, we had campaigned for, and we had paid for many, many years. That's now been taken up by the Mayor of London, and we're very pleased that students and young children across the London area are receiving preschool meals in primary schools because of the work that we put in. When you're speaking about free school meals in secondary school, it needs to be remembered, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but any family who are eligible for their children to receive free school meals at secondary school under the current legislation do receive them in Newham. And I think in some parts of the budget that you've presented, you make it sound as if nobody in secondary school receives free school meals. But those that are eligible under the current legislation for which we get the funding are receiving those. We're not at present able to move forward on those, but we are campaigning with the Mayor of London to make that a London-wide issue, I'm sure. In terms of... sorry, I'm working my way down the list. We didn't have council tax increases in Newham for 10 years. So I'm not quite sure how you say that we have increased them year after year after year. Now, I would have preferred if during those 10 years, and I don't know, colleagues, it might have been when you were actually in the Labour administration, that over those 10 years, if we had increased council taxes at the small amounts that our colleagues and surrounding boroughs may have done, we may not be in the position that we are in today, where we are having to ask for a higher rate of increase from our residents. But having said that, as has been stated by many of my comrades this evening...
Thank you, Councillor Madeleine Pontin. Thank you. Is there any other members who wish to speak? Councillor Danny Killing. You have up to 3 minutes.
I don't think I'd be opposition if I didn't actually get up and talk on this one. At the last full council, the Newham Independent leader stated that they would be the largest group at the next election. I praised the ambition, but asked them if, before thinking about that, they first learn how to balance a budget. This is a Section 114 for dummies, this budget, where we go through the year, run out of money, and finance declares we are in too much of deficit to pay our bills. Where I understand the sentiment of some of these policies, I do not understand the argument that just because you own a car, you get special support. Our borough's pavements cost us a fortune every year to repair due to the amount of cars that like to drive and park on them, not to mention the cost to public health through emissions. I struggle to wonder if this group takes the climate emergency seriously. Last year, they even proposed to sack the Director of Climate Action. This year, they want to invest in polluters. All I'm going to say is, if we had a free bulky waste collection, this would be collected first.
Thank you, Councillor Danny Killing. Is there any other members who wish to speak on this amendment motion? If not, thank you. We will now move to the vote on amendment from Councillor Mahmood Mirza. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those against, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any abstentions? So one, we have abstention. Sorry, two. Oh, sorry. Thank you. If this is not carried, so we'll also have another amendment from the Green Group, which is outlined on the supplementary agenda. I call on Councillor Nate Higgins to present your amendments, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. As Green councillors, we stand firmly against forcing communities to endure austerity politics they neither voted for nor deserve. What we're witnessing is a deliberate political choice to continue austerity at the local level while protecting the wealth of the elite at the top. This is a budget that asks residents to pay more for less, yet again. We say no. This administration may claim that its hands are tied, but where is your anger? Where is the fire you once had when you fought against Conservative austerity? Why are you not raging against a Labour government that is forcing these brutal decisions upon you? In the first year of a Labour government, you are slashing our council tax reduction scheme. This scheme is a lifeline for thousands of Newham residents. Households will see bills soar, for some by more than £200 per year. This administration is taking £3 million directly from the pockets of our poorest residents. You yourselves once called for full council tax reduction and ambition, yet now, with Labour in power, you are cutting it, directly harming the most vulnerable in our borough. And for what? To stuff money into reserves. A responsible council builds up reserves when times are good, not when our residents are in crisis. It is morally bankrupt to take money from those struggling just to pad out the savings account. A direct cash transfer from our poorest into Labour's back pocket. Shameful. Council tax is a regressive system that hits the poorest hardest. While Labour chooses to hike this tax by a staggering 9%, the Green Party remains committed to reform, including wealth taxes that ensure those with the broadest shoulders truly pay their fair share. When your residents ask you, how dare you? Look me in the eye and answer me, how do you expect me to pay this? What will you say? When the council sends bailiffs to our most struggling residents, will you be able to tell them that you had no alternative? Because you do have an alternative. Labour is selling £50 million off of community assets, our shared inheritance, just to pay for day-to-day spending. Debden House and campsite is being flogged off instead of being protected for future generations. Once it's gone, it is gone forever. Labour has proudly committed in the past to services like Our Newham Money and the Employment Rights Hub for residents facing financial hardship and workplace exploitation. Those services have supported struggling families and workers seeking justice. How can you, a so-called Labour council, look your residents in the eye and tell them that the protections you promised them are now expendable? Who will you blame? This budget is a political choice, and it is the wrong one. Our Green alternative budget offers a better way forward. We refuse to cut the council tax reduction scheme because we refuse to push our poorest residents into unpayable debt. We will protect our Newham Money, ensuring people have the support they need rather than being abandoned. We will stop unfair increases to community centre fees, keeping vital local spaces accessible. We will protect funding for important festive celebrations. We'll cancel the sale of Debden House and its campsite, preserving it for generations to come. We will protect our parks and East Ham Nature Reserve from Labour's cuts. We will freeze rents for market traders to support small businesses, ensuring good jobs for Newham residents and protecting prices for our poorest residents. We will fund new knife amnesty bins, boost secure cycle parking by 50% and hire extra caseworkers for children with special educational needs. All of these proposals are fully funded. We don't take pausing reserve contributions lightly, but our priority is clear. Labour is hoarding reserves while selling off assets, an act of hypocrisy, not prudence. They admit the borough can't balance its budget without government reform. We choose to support struggling residents now, rather than pretending small reserve contributions will solve this crisis. We'll reduce the bloated Mayor's Office and Communications and Policy team, putting money into frontline services instead of spin. We will scrap extra allowances for deputy cabinet members, roles with no decision-making power, saving money that should be spent on residents, not bureaucracy. Labour councillors, you have an alternative. You do not have to vote for a budget that will push your residents into poverty and debt. You don't have to accept this cruelty as inevitable. You can choose to back our Green Amendment, which protects our most vulnerable residents, supports small businesses, and preserves vital community assets. Newham deserves better. Our residents deserve better. Stand with us, stand with the people of Newham. I urge this council to reject Labour's austerity budget and back a fairer, more responsible alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knight Higgins. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Eric Chaudhry, you have up to 3 minutes.
Council, if it were a Conservative administration putting this forward, colleagues from the Labour Party would rightfully be condemning it as an austerity budget. With millions of pounds of cuts and almost a 10% increase in council tax, residents across Newham will be paying more and getting less. Cuts to youth services, libraries, pest control, public parks, street lighting, financial welfare schemes, and much, much more. These cuts will gut public services and leave people less safe, less secure, and less well off. The Green Party rejects the premise that austerity is the answer to solve challenges in public finances. Austerity is a political choice and one with a track record of failure. It was a failure of a strategy under the coalition government, and it will be a failure of a strategy now. And remember that this is being done in the same week that the government decided to cut the foreign aid budget in favour of military spending to the tune of £13 billion a year. A difficult decision borne not by decision makers in Whitehall, but by desperately vulnerable populations abroad. The same is true of this budget. The difficulty of these decisions will not be borne by the people in this room. They will be borne by vulnerable populations across our borough. It is austerity, plain and simple. However, given this is the agenda we are faced with, the Greens have put forward amendments which will alleviate some of the devastating impacts of these cuts and ensure greater protections for our most vulnerable residents. The budget put forward by the Council is not the only approach available to us. It is not too late to further scrutinise it and amend it. Indeed, some of the incoherences, which include raising revenue by increasing the cost of advertising in the Newham magazine, while simultaneously saving money by stopping the publication of the Newham magazine, begs the question about whether colleagues from the Labour group have actually read the budget they are about to vote for. Now, we recognise, of course, that local authorities are poorly funded and continue to be poorly funded, but a vote for this budget is a vote for austerity. We need to start understanding that we cannot cut our way to a brighter future or cut our way to economic growth. We need to fix the fundamentals, consider fair methods of taxation, and implement real housing reforms, because soon enough, there'll be no more assets left to sell off and nothing else left to cut.
Thank you, Councillor Eric Chaudhry. We now move to the debate on the amendment. Councillor Ali, as the mover on the report, original motion, do you accept the amendment? Thank you. So that's a no. We now move to the debate on the amendment. Members, you have up to 3 minutes to speak. Councillor Mumtaz Khan, you have 3 minutes to speak. Sorry, who else?
Thank you, Chair. Comrades, the Green Party's alternative budget is a cut and paste job. I'm sure you've read that. Apart from 2 items, it's relatively similar to the Labour group's. However, the 2 items create significant financial vulnerabilities that would jeopardise the Council's long-term stability and lack fiscal responsibility. The most concerning element of the Green budget is the cancellation of the £3 million annual contribution to reserve. The Section 151 officer flagged that reserves are £7 million below the recommended minimum level. The administration's strategy to build reserve over time is essential for financial resilience. Scrapping contribution with no plan for implement leaves the Council dangerously exposed to unforeseen events, for economic downturn to expected service pressure.
The Green proposal offsets the 2.9 million cost of reversing cuts to the council tax reduction scheme by eliminating the reserve contribution. While this may protect some vulnerable residents in short term, it gambles with council's future stability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mumtaz Khan. Now I invite Councillor Susan Master to speak. And you have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Susan Masters, East Ham South. So I'm really pleased to see that Councillor Keeling's time on Budget Working Party has had such an influence on the Greens budget, which, to be fair, does add up and actually stretches to a whole 4 pages. At Budget Working Party, a Labour-led scrutiny committee, we supported the protection of festive lights, though I'm pleased that in future, not only will these be provided by our current Labour administration, their actual costs will be sponsored and not paid for through the General Fund, money saved. Budget Working Party also supported the continuation of our Newham Money, a service introduced by our Labour Council that offers support to residents experiencing hardship, and we're pleased that our Labour administration is already looking at possible ways to preserve this useful service. So far, so good. However, the Greens seem to have forgotten that when it comes to the council tax increase, a still highly generous council tax reduction scheme will still be protecting the most vulnerable. This scheme sees no change when it comes to Newham's poorer pensioners and is still more generous than many of our neighbouring boroughs for other residents experiencing financial hardship. And all of this takes place within a Labour administration which previously froze council tax for 10 years, giving us rates that are still amongst the cheapest in London. Elsewhere, while I have no problems with plans to boost cycle parking, I do wonder whether the Greens are aware of the Labour Mayor of London's grant funding that has already provided cycle parking all over our borough, and feel they might need to get a little more imaginative if they feel a few extra knife amnesty bins will make our streets safer. Good attempt, but must try harder.
Yes, Councillor Danny Keeling. You've raised your hand. This is a debate now. You would like to speak on your... Okay, that's fine, yeah, that's fine. Okay, is there any other members wish to speak? John Wentworth.
Danny Keeling, Stratford Olympic Park. Amending this budget begins with putting the people of Newham first, ensuring residents who are at least well off are protected from cuts and higher taxes. I wish to start with our Newham Money, a vital support service for those in hardship and need a helping hand getting back on track. It is a service I've personally used recently and is a lifeline for thousands in this borough. We cannot charge more to residents, dismiss the cost of living and leave them out in the cold. This vital service must be saved to ensure residents are supported in one of the most deprived boroughs in the capital. If you're entitled to the maximum council tax reduction, then you are truly struggling. We ensure that rightfully the cuts are reversed, especially with a 9% increase in council tax. This is about prevention, preventing residents being harmed by this administration's budget in an already difficult climate. Protecting people is what we're here to do. So that is why we found an extra 5 knife amnesty bins as the cost of losing a loved one is too high and one less knife could be one extra life. Protecting business is important. At the heart of communities are market traders, a hub of energy and commerce that needs protection in a cost of living crisis. We would freeze their fees to keep them going through this tough time. Our communities all need protecting, so we'd also protect our community centres from increased fees, used by all ages and could be a vital lifeline for the lonely. Safeguarding our residents is key here, and everyone deserves support. That's why we have costed for 5 new SEM workers to give residents the assistance that they need. In an ever-growing dense city, we must have parks that are high quality, places of refuge for residents and visitors, That's why we have cancelled your cuts on parks and green spaces. This amendment is about supporting residents while times are tough, and that is why we're investing in our residents rather than our reserves. That is why we're shrinking the Mayor's office, the comms team, and reallocating funding from the Deputy Cabinet members back to the residents we represent. Residents require support in these hard times, and that is what this amendment does.
Thank you, Councillor Danny Killing. I invite Councillor John Wentworth to speak, please.
Well, I would like to thank the Green Group for accepting our proposal to introduce a surcharge on diesel vehicle parking permits. We believe, though, that £50 per year is the right level. A surcharge is, of course, necessary because diesel fuel combustion produces high levels of particulate matter 2.5 and 5 to 10 times more nitrogen oxides than petrol-fueled vehicles. It's been calculated that the surcharge set at £50 per year will reduce the number of residents' diesel parking permits by 5 to 15% compared with 2023-24 levels. Unfortunately, in the past, most motorists, as you know, were encouraged to switch from petrol to diesel because being more economical in consumption, diesel fuel produces less climate-changing carbon dioxide. This diesel surcharge, however, focuses on the health of our residents because we know the poisonous gases dangerous to health affect our residents more than the already very harmful petrol fuel. We've set it at £50, though, because we want to bring motorists with us to gain their cooperation in reducing air pollution. We believe that £50 per year diesel surcharge is a reasonable and justified measure which will gain the approval of motorists as well as the rest of the population. We need everybody to work together to help improve our environment and make a contribution to combating climate change. Therefore, £50 per year we think is right. £25 extra we think is not right at this time.
Thank you, Councillor John Wentworth. Is there any other members wish to speak? Councillor Madeline Pontin. Thank you. Is there any other members wish to speak? Councillor Caroline Adeja.
Thank you, Chair. Our NUM is fundamental, important to all our residents, our NUM money, and we recognize its contribution within the community itself. As my colleague, Councillor Susan Master, has mentioned, we are working very closely with the Council to ensure that we do everything to help our residents in this time and need, and acknowledge a suggestion by the Greens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Caroline Adeja. We'll now move to the vote on the amendment from Councillor Nate Higgins. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Two. All those against, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any abstentions? 3 abstentions. Thank you. That's mean the amendment motion is not carried. We'll now move to the debate on the executive budget proposal. Members, you have up to 3 minutes. Councillor Simon Rush.
Thank you, Chair. I know I've got 3 minutes. I'm seconding our budget because I firstly and more importantly believe in it's a financially prudent and sound budget. I want to thank the Cabinet and all the officers involved in completing this complex budget. It was difficult because we all know we had no choice but to make savings and increase council tax to 8.99 after government approval. We know some will blame us for wasting money, but the reality is very different. I know you've heard it before, but we really did suffer 14 years of cuts, all imposed on all of us. Since July last year, change has begun and will happen, but repairing the damage takes time. As such, we must all be patient in repairing and rebuilding and building for Newham's future. Our council tax is the 7th lowest in London. We're managing this with London's highest temporary accommodation costs, currently running at over 45 million in the last year. If we did not have this level of temporary TA costs, we will be near a surplus and not need an SFS. TA is a national crisis, not just ours, and it's not one of our making. The country and we are suffering a social housing crisis, in part due to greedy private landlords taking advantage of the situation. Unfortunately, too many landlords in Newham believe that greed is good. The line made famous in the 80s when Thatcher encouraged greed in stealing our children's milk and allowing the sale of our social homes at a heavily discounted cost. And today is where we are. There are not enough social homes, not enough money available for social care, but plenty of greed running through our society. We believe in building a fairer Newham for all. Newham is the 4th largest house builder of social and affordable homes in the country. If you don't believe me, go look it up. We continue to have robust financial controls to protect our vital services, which we all use, such as street cleansing, bin collection, staying weekly, and no library closures. We will continue investing in our fly tipping prevention, which, if you look around, is now producing results. Unlike Bristol, who have cut bin collections and may close libraries, I believe they're even contemplating charging disabled drivers to park. We are building a fairer Newham and have no intentions of doing this. Our council tax reduction scheme is at 80%. After we listen to our residents, which will continue to help our residents in most need. Raising council tax was difficult, but we must consider that Newham's council tax has been kept at a low level for too long, denying Newham residents investment where they're most needed. Newham is currently the 7th lowest of all London boroughs. This increase is necessary to support our investments in the services all as.
Thank you, Councillor Simon Rush. I invite now Councillor Rohit Dasgupta to speak.
Good evening, friends and colleagues. I rise on this occasion to speak in favour of the Labour administration's budget. This is a moment that will shape the future of our communities and our shared goals in Newham. The budget that Councillor Ali has presented is not just a collection of numbers, as he said, but a statement of our political values, a promise to those who have elected us, and a vision for a fairer future for all in this borough that we call home. Despite more than a decade of Tory austerity and ideological financial mismanagement from them, which has seen us lose millions and us having to make very difficult choices, we have presented a budget that has safeguarded our interests in areas that matter the most, our frontline services. Following budget challenges and a projected gap of £84 million, mostly due to the crippling homelessness and TA cost crisis, which is challenging, we offer a balanced budget. One that is going to safeguard and spend on adult social and children's social care while also prioritizing essential services, supporting children and young people, making significant capital investments in house building and the demand of homelessness that we have in this borough. Despite this modest increase in council tax, we remain the 7th lowest of London's 32 boroughs, a testament that this budget is not just about meeting our immediate needs, but building a long-term opportunity that's going to empower our communities, as the Mayor said in her speech. The independents want to freeze council tax, but at the same time, they want to abolish emission-based parking. They want to restore first resident car parking. At a time of climate crisis, this is bonkers. But it's also important that the Section 151 officer has confirmed that this will come at a net cost of £32 million. Now, Newham residents, what this means is an increase of council tax of 30%. Okay, so you tell me, what are you going to cut for that? How are we going to risk the vulnerable people in this borough? I don't think that's what our budget does. Newham Labour is on the side of the working people of this community. I welcome the debate that we are having today, this budget, but I want to urge everyone in this room that we remember who we are here to serve. Not political games, but people who have elected us to fight for a better future. Councillor Ali, thank you for producing this budget in very difficult times, and the fact that you've still kept 80 to 90% council tax reduction for those who are most vulnerable. This budget is about action, delivery, efficiency, and fairness in the face of a very difficult financial background. I urge everyone to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rohit Dashgupta. I invite Councillor Annister to speak, please. Thank you.
Annister, Royal Albert Ward. I'm speaking in favour of our budget this evening. Even with the increase in the rate of council tax and the council tax reduction scheme, something that we've long operated and on which we consulted recently with our residents. You can find the full details at section 8 of your papers. As proposed this evening, residents who receive a reduction of 80%, as an example, would take a Band D council tax this year from 10 payments of £144, 10 of 144, to 10 of £29. Even with the proposal put forward today, there would be an additional £12 a month, at just £3 a week. But we're still one of the lowest council taxes in Greater London. But surely, council tax is my subscription for being part of the community here in Newham, something I pay to ensure fair services and benefits for everyone. We'll all be vulnerable at some time in our lives. As children, we need to be educated. Our schools include some that are top for educational success in the country, for inclusiveness. Many years ago, being a Newham born and bred, as I am, meant educational disadvantage, lack of hope, lack of expectation, but no longer, and that's down to our council tax. Then, as time goes on, we're living longer, of course, but not necessarily always healthier. And we may need social care, which we want to be offered by people who are properly employed and paid, all paid by our council tax, things we must provide together with the huge bill for temporary accommodation. But meanwhile, we've got our weekly recycling collection. Just imagine being in Bristol, the only green authority in the country today, where bins are collected once a month. Once a month, that is. I bet everything's very green in those bins by that time. Don't trust them. Vote Labour.
Thank you. Councillor Nate Higgins.
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't going to speak on the budget itself because I've already spoken on the amendment, but I just can't have councillors saying things that just aren't true. There is Bristol is not moving to monthly bin collections. They just agreed their budget this week and it's not in there. They're also not cutting libraries, like was claimed. They've protected their council tax reduction scheme as well. I just think if councillors in this room paid more attention to what was happening in Newham than what they thought might make a nice attack line on the Greens, things might actually be better for residents here. We hear councillors talking about patience, that residents just need to be patient. You want residents to be patient while their council tax is being hiked by a staggering 9%. You want them to be patient while their council tax support is being slashed. You want them to be patient when bailiffs are turning up at their door.
Councillor Nate
This is my
Higgins.
speech on the budget, Chair. I have 3 minutes on the budget.
Well, I thought you asked for the point of order.
Yeah, that was point of personal clarification during the
That's
speech.
fine, then
but I
I'll
can speak.
allow you to
Thank
speak
Chair.
your, yeah.
Chair, thank you, Chair. You want patience while bailiffs are turning up at their door with council tax arrears. You want patience while they're living in houses with ceilings falling down on their heads, making them disabled. It's a staggering level of ignorance that doesn't seem to reckon with the harm that they are causing residents every day. We were told for years that it was the result of a Conservative government in Parliament. We don't have a Conservative government anymore. We have a Labour government, and they've done nothing except put yet more cuts on the residents we're supposed to represent. Who will you blame now? It seems you want to blame Green councillors in Bristol. That doesn't make sense to me. I think you're to blame. I think residents will think you're to blame, and you're going to have to answer for it on the doorstep. Good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Nate Higgins. Now I would like to invite Councillor Shantu Ferdous to speak, please.
Good evening, colleagues. I'm Shantu Ferdous, Councillor for East Ham. I'm going to speak in favour of the final budget proposal presented by Councillor Zulfikar Ali. Our council annual budget faces significant challenges, featured the national homelessness and social care crisis, which was led by the Tory government and was their choice of austerity politics, not Labour. In reality, further stretches of two-thirds of our budget proposed mandatory services. Despite this hardness, we stand united with our local authorities. Facing similar challenges, we have been working tirelessly to find sustainable solutions, liaising with our Labour government for financial support. Newham Council Housing Development Programme is largest in London, making significant strides towards our goal of creating 1,500 new homes, with 576 new homes already completed and another 656 underway. We are pleased about the progress and communities we are building together. The government has given us a green light to increase council tax by the additional 4% on top of the previous assumed 4.99. Acknowledging the authorizing increased council tax, we propose an 8.99 increase. And action is not taken lightly on the pressing need to invest our community's future while still positioning Newham Council, as all colleagues mentioned, the tax among the lowest in London. The increase is anticipated to be only 5 million, plus proposed to close budget gap with roughly around 8 million. Our resident additional contribution on council tax will make it different to those need it most in our borough. To put into perspective, and an example, Housing Band A, which used a pay 835, will now contribute only 910.38. This proposed additional 4% increase only will increase £75 yearly. Therefore, I urge my colleague to support our fairer Newham budget proposal. Okay, it's worth noting that quite importantly, the suggested adjustment will impact only the families with working age member. The plan is decreased to highest amount support 19% to 80%, which is the gentle change than 70% initially considered following the feedback we received. So please support our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Blossom Young to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. Blossom Young, Beckton Ward. Look, colleagues, we know why we are here, and colleagues have referred to the 14 years of Conservative austerity and the mess that they've left this country in. And that has been chronic underfunding of local authorities, with 28% less core spending power than in 2011. We've seen 7 local authorities in London having to apply for exceptional financial support this year. Newham is one of them, but there are others. This is not a Newham-only issue. But we have a Labour government in place who've only been in for 7 months. Let's remember that. And they are keen and committed to work with councils towards a fairer multi-year funding settlement, and we intend and are indeed working with them to achieve that here. Labour is focused on growth, and its growth mission is core. And if we are honest, that mission and what it will deliver is what will make the real difference for people in Newham. It is what will lift our most vulnerable residents out of poverty, and it is what will create opportunity. So we're fully aligned with that mission, and in particular, that's about welcoming a commitment to building 1.5 million homes and addressing the housing crisis head on. Colleagues have talked about our role as house builder, but we're also increasing our investment in homelessness prevention, meaning that those who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness are supported to remain independent and to avoid crisis. Look, colleagues, I don't think anyone in this room doesn't recognise the difficult decisions that we are having to make. We know that there's been underinvestment over decades. We know there has been austerity, COVID, cost of living, housing crisis, increased need in social care and children's services. And it also means with population growth that resources are spread more thinly, but that brings opportunity that we can capitalise on. So we are working with the government to get to a fairer financial settlement. We are transforming the way this council works for the 21st century, and we're continuing to support those most in need by investing in prevention and early intervention, while creating opportunity, while lifting people out of poverty and bringing hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blossom Young. I invite Councillor Sophia Nadby to speak. You have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Labour is out of touch with the people of Newham, and I urge councillors to step outside the chambers and meet all the residents they are claiming to represent, because if they did, they would see the reality that their budget fails to address. They talk about protecting frontline services, yet libraries are facing cuts. Community centres are struggling, and public spaces are being neglected. Our streets are dirtier than before. Fly tipping is out of control, and basic maintenance is being ignored. Despite all their promises on housing, families are still trapped in mold-infested damp homes, suffering conditions that no one should have to endure. We have all seen the reports. Labour has failed to take meaningful action. This budget does not reflect the struggles of the people they're meant to serve. It lacks ambition, fails to tackle the root causes of poverty and inequality, and continues to cycle of managed decline. The people of Newham deserve better than this. Labour must stop making excuses. Start listening and take real action to improve the lives of those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sophia Nagmi. I invite now Councillor Jenny Killing to speak.
The legacy of this council is mismanaged finances. Whether that's the legacy of this administration or the previous, it is the Labour legacy. Spiralling costs of temporary accommodation, which were never resolved, making us the worst in the country. Overspends every year in multiple departments, and now a bailout from their mates in government, which we will pay off for years to come. Local authorities have not been funded by government. Whether that's Labour or Tory, it's the same old story. Who will have to pay for all this mess? Residents of Newham, the same residents with one of London's highest income deprivation and child poverty rates. So whilst the residents of Newham are struggling to heat their homes, put food on their tables and pay their rent, this administration is enforcing a council tax rise of 9%. Every year this administration rises taxes. But this time, they order you to pay a massive amount more and get less. You will find multiple statements from the Mayor of Newham doing the right thing, backing our Newham money. The service which is there to help support residents, ensure they get back on their feet when their chips are down. In fact, I am actually surprised this service isn't shouted about even more. We should be a proud borough to support our residents. However, in the time when Newham enforces more charges, higher council tax, and then the Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, also throws on an extra 4% council tax, the Labour Prime Minister removes heating for the elderly, this administration is intending on shutting down all support by closing our Newham money. In fact, they wish to ensure those most in need are also hit hard with a council tax reduction scheme. To my Labour colleagues on these benches, remember why we are here. We are for residents. Do you really have the conscience to strip financial support from our residents? Do you really have the conscience to throw high taxation on our already desperate residents? We understand difficult decisions must be made, but that is exactly what they are, decisions. And these decisions will hurt the worst off in our borough.
Thank you, Councillor Danny Killing. Now I invite Councillor Neil Wilson to speak. You have up to 3 minutes, Councillor Neil Wilson.
Thank you very much. Councillor Neil Wilson, Plaistow South, and in this context, the Cabinet Member for Health and Adult Social Care. I was amazed, and I have sat through quite a few budgets, I think it's 31, that we haven't had much reference, apart from a generalised vulnerable, from an opposition, and I've had opposition in the chamber before to speak to, and the vulnerable were not really mentioned in terms of the two biggest spending areas that are represented by my colleagues, Sarah Ruiz and myself, in social care terms, children and social care. There has been banded around budget figures as if we pluck them out of the air, or that we have not summoned the political will. We are working closer than ever with the Labour administration in central and regional government to look at issues around the social care reform. I haven't heard that being mentioned. It seems that people have this sort of, I don't know, I think rather paternalistic and stereotypical view that adult social care is for a few elderly residents when they really have to go into a nursing home or something. It is vitally important that we work across as a one council approach, which we've done in this budget, to make certain that those coming through our social care system, right from the looked after children, and I'll remind everybody in the room that we are corporate parents, right through learning difficulties or increased numbers coming into adult social care with complex needs. And I think my colleague Anne Easter did mention the values that we may all need social care in one way or other, like we all need a health service, and may that Labour tradition continue. We work closely with the health colleagues to include and improve our efficiency. And I rebut the suggestion that efficiency is just a slogan. Efficiency is through the very web and eve of our medium-term financial strategy. We have over-delivered, actually, in terms of the MTFS savings in adult social care. And I know that this may look as if I'm some sort of backroom barrister, but I do read my report. This is not to show off. I'm just referring to the pages, and I know I'm running out of time. Just to end, that the council has invested in prioritising local investment, early intervention, preventive models of service delivery at a time when we must demand efficiency, and we have, from the Cabinet and Mayor, demand efficiency, service area and transformation. I have lived in this borough now for several years. What keeps me going is a commitment to its people. I rebut any suggestion that we in this Labour administration are not doing anything apart from being on the side of the residents. I fully commend this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen. Are there any members who wish to speak? Councillor Anamul Islam, I invite you to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, colleagues. Councillor, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Islam. I stand here tonight in support of this budget proposal put forward by Councillor Ali. It is a budget that makes difficult choices, but it does so with clear purpose. To safeguard Newham's future while protecting the most vulnerable residents, we all acknowledge the financial pressures facing local government, and we cannot shy away from them. That is why this budget is built on responsibility, sustainability, and fairness. We have heard the concerns raised in the Green and Independent amendments. They have been debated, scrutinised, and ultimately rejected by this chamber. That tells us something important. While their intentions may be well-meaning, the proposal did not withstand financial scrutiny. They were neither practical nor sustainable, and adopting them would have jeopardised the financial stability of this borough. The local government has suffered 14 years of austerity with repeated cuts, forcing councils to stretch limited resources like others. We are being asked to do more with less. No one wants to raise council tax, least of all of us. But the alternative, cutting essential services, would be far worse. The Independent Amendment proposed a council tax freeze of 10.43 million loss, of a freeze of 10.4 million, of loss. I think it's 10.43 million. While also abolishing the emission-based parking tax of 14 million, that creates an unfunded shortfall of 24.43 million with no credible funding source. That is not responsible budgeting, it is wishful thinking. If we followed that path, we would be forced into deeper cuts that would disproportionately affect our most vulnerable residents. This budget ensures that those who need support the most still receive it while maintaining financial stability. Chair, the Green and Independent Group amendment suggested that maintaining maximum level of CTRS indefinitely, while we share the desire to support struggling households, we must ask, where does the funding come from? The Independent Group suggested raiding reserves. But reserves are not an endless pot of money. They are for financial stability, not for patching up short-term gaps. This budget preserves an 80 to 90% CTRS for low-income households, one of the most generous in London, whilst ensuring the council can still fund frontline services in the long term. This is the definition of financial responsibility. Chair, reserves exist to protect councils from unforeseen financial crisis, not as a short-term spending pot. Draining reserves now would mean deeper cuts in the future. This administration is not hoarding reserves, it's ensuring that we can weather future financial uncertainty. That is not just responsible, it's necessary. Chair, some claim that we are selling off our shared inheritance. This is a misleading soundbite. We're not selling assets for the state.
Thank you, Councillor Anamul Islam. Thank you. Councillor Akhtar Alam wish to speak.
Akhtarul Alam, Councillor Akhtarul Alam, Little Ilford Ward. Colleagues, chairs, we have seen the cost of living going really, really high. The electricity bill, gas bill, even local shoppings for the household. The services are going up, and everything pretty much going up. As a result of that, not just the residents, I think every one of us suffering from this kind of price hike. However, the Newham Council still managed to keep the council tax reduction scheme to safeguard the vulnerable residents of this borough. We are elected to represent our residents best as we can. I think the propositions and the proposition for the budget, I think we have tried our best as we can. We have to consider there were many years of austerity from the Tory government and also mismanagement. Beside the point, since I have been coming in here in this kind of meetings, I always seen the independents has always alternative plan. Next time I want to see a workable plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Akhtarul Alam. Councillor Mirza.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Newham Council is one of the poorest boroughs in London. The council tax increase, 9%, unprecedented. Normally we need to go through referendum, but this time we got permission from Labour government to increase the council tax, putting a pressure on hard-working families in London Borough of Newham. I know from a first hand, I've seen people standing in the queues at the food banks, hours and hours in extreme temperatures, waiting to receive the food parcel which cost about 25 to 30 pounds. Imagine your increase of the council tax, how is going to be impact on those families. I'm giving you an example, Chair. There is a nurse come to the food bank. She worked for the NHS. She's got 3 children. She works as a part-time as a carer, but she still have to rely on a food bank. She will not be able to claim your tax reduction you offering here. One thing is similar between the budget Labour administration is proposing and what our amendment was asking. We both are asking central government to fund our frontline services. You recently got 60 million plus exceptional grant. What we are asking for to fund our budget proposals by the central government. Central government has got resources to fund the wars. We have been sending. We just recently extend our budget, defense budget, which is about 16 billion. Last year, we have spent about £3.5 billion to Ukraine, committed. So, but we don't have the money to fund our frontline services here. Labour Council introducing a £50 extra charges for hard-working people who use their vehicles for work. This budget does not represent anything to do with the Newham residents. This budget is not fair. This is not compassionate. This budget is not putting the residents first. This budget is about putting a burden on hard-working families.
Thank you, Councillor Mahmoud Mirza. Are there any members who wish to speak? Councillor John Morris.
Councillor Mirza, for clarification, exceptional financial support is permission for us to sell our assets, not money from the government. Well, you have it nonetheless. Chair, despite the unprecedented rise in costs from temporary accommodation, social care and inflation, resulting in a staggering 157 million shortfall over 3 years, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to residents and to produce a balanced budget. Despite these immense challenges, we have protected key services, maintaining council tax reduction scheme at 80%, keeping weekly refuse collections, preserving current street cleaning levels, while maintaining children's services, youth services, children's centres and libraries. All of this has been achieved while keeping Noom's council tax the lowest in outer London and the 6th lowest across the capital. Given the financial constraints we face, this is the most responsible budget we can deliver.
Thank you, Councillor John Morris. Are there any members who wish to speak? Thank you. Councillor Zulfikar Ali, you have the right to reply. Should you wish to say anything further? You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening once again. Chair, we've heard this evening how thoughtless, short-sighted and irresponsible alternative budget proposals have been put forward here by our opposition colleagues. It just shows the lack of sense of appreciation of the challenges not just Neom faces, but the entire country faces. One adds 32 million further burden on the council, and the other wants to stop our commitment to reserves, which are crucial. We need to build up these reserves up to 5% recommended level, and we have given this commitment that every year we'll add 3 million until we reach that 5% status. And I'm sure most of you know that we lost £9 million during COVID. This is because the Tory government did not reimburse us after they said spend, 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 and we did spend, but we didn't get a penny back. We need to be prepared for unforeseen eventualities. Who knows what is around the corner? This could be another COVID or another pandemic. So may I say, I think the reference made that the austerities were because of our own policy failure. They were not our policy failure. This is a result of the disaster 14 years of Tory rule, and thank God people of this country got rid of them. And I think in summary terms, I think Section 151 has summed it very well, that these alternative proposals are not affordable, not prudent, and not reasonable. And this evening, Chair, I presented the administration's budget, and that demonstrates commitment to fiscal responsibility, thoughtful planning, and strong leadership, even during these difficult and challenging times. This budget has been carefully considered, reflecting the needs of our community, whilst prioritizing the essential services that matter to our people the most. It speaks to the collective effort of this Labour administration, guided by a clear vision to meet today's challenges while ensuring we are ready for tomorrow. In the face of uncertainty and financial pressures, we have taken a responsible approach. We have listened to the residents, taken into account Budget Scrutiny Commission's recommendations, considered these where possible, and our decisions are grounded on sound financial stewardship, focusing on sustainability and the long-term well-being of our residents. Whilst times are tough, we're demonstrating leadership, making tough choices now for the benefit of all. This budget is also a transitional one. We understand the importance of working collaboratively with new Labour government, and we will do everything we can do to advocate for a fair and sufficient funding for local residents so that we can deal with complex issues in the future. Our priorities are clear. We're investing in key areas. We'll have the greatest impact on the community, whether it's health, education, housing, infrastructure. This budget is forward-thinking mindset, and it's here to support the local residents at the most difficult time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Zulfikar Ali. I will now move to the vote as set out the Council Procedures Rule 20.5. A recorded vote on the setting of the Council budget and Council tax must be undertaken. I will ask the Chief Executive to carry out the recorded vote. When the Chief Executive calls out your name when replying to your vote, please state for, against, or abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will now record the vote. Chair Rahima Rahman.
For.
Mayor Fiaz.
For.
Councillor Saeed Bashir. For or against? I couldn't hear you. Okay, thank you. Councillor Noor Begum. Councillor Rita Chadha. Councillor Caroline Corbyn. Councillor Liz Cronin. Councillor Femi Folola. Councillor Shantu Ferdus. Councillor Muswa Alam. Councillor Alam. Councillor John Whitworth. Councillor Pontin. Councillor John Morris. Councillor Mumtaz Khan. Councillor Easter. Councillor Rohit Dasgupta. Councillor Steve Brayshaw. He's not here, thank you. Councillor Carolina Daja. Councillor Sarah Ruiz. Councillor Zulfikar Ali. Councillor Charlotte, not here. Councillor Amar Verdi. Councillor Neil Wilson. Councillor Blossom Young. Councillor Islam. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Mirza. Councillor Sophia Naqvi. Councillor Gul. Sorry. Sorry, forgive me. Let's start again. Councillor Zuba Gulamasan. Thank you. Councillor Susan Masters. Councillor Terry Paul. Councillor Anthony McCormick. Councillor Nate Higgins. Councillor Tony Wilson. Not here, thank you. Councillor Gelip Kia. You here? Councillor Larissa. Sorry. Councillor Vaughan. Councillor Harvinder Verdi. Councillor Simon Rush. Councillor Rahman. Councillor Patel. Salim Patel. Not here. Thank you. Councillor Melanie Onovo. Councillor Thelma Odo. Councillor Mohammed. Councillor McCormick's not here. No, not this Councillor McCormick. Jemima McCormick, right? Yes, not here. Councillor Makwana. Not here, thank you. Councillor Lofthouse. And I think that's all. Oh, you're off. You're not on my list, Councillor. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. I've not been given a complete list.
You've missed page 4. Page 4.
I haven't got a page 4. Just give me page 4. Forgive me. So we'll start again. I don't have it. No. From page 4. Councillor Arik Chowdhury. Councillor Guana. Not here. No, not here. Councillor Alan Griffith. Councillor Hack. Not here. Councillor Dina Hussain. Councillor Lester Hudson. Not here. Councillor Sabia Kamali. Councillor Joy Laguda? Not here. Councillor James Beckles? No. I've done Joy. It was the next one. Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway isn't here. Councillor James Beckles? Councillor John Gray? Councillor Rachel Tripp? I'll do you again, Councillor Joy Laguda. Councillor Joy Laguda? Thank you.
Members, just give us 2 minutes to get the result out. Thank you. Conrad. That's what I think I've got.
No, 5 against. No, 5 against. So 5 against.
Accountings.
43. I think I missed one person. Yeah, look. So I've got 5 against, 44, yeah. 17 not here, plus Danny Keeling. I'm not quite sure how to count that. And that adds up to 61, 66 plus 1 is 67, which is correct, isn't it? Yeah, that's correct, yeah. I think I've missed one person, that's why I've got 43 here. Right, so go through again. On page 1, what have you got? Rahima? No, just give me the numbers. 9. 9, correct. Next on page 2, what have you got? 11. Yep. Page 3. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. 8, yep, correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, correct. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 9. I think I'm missing someone. Jane Lofthouse, you haven't got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You've missed Selector. That's the one I missed. Yep. So now we're consistent. Yep. 44. So it's 5 against. Yep. 44 for. 17. 17 not here. Not I don't know how to count Councillor Keelan. We just say. Yeah, 18. So it's 18. Yeah, 18. So, yeah. Happy with that? 66, that adds up, no, 67 because 67 plus the, plus the mayor. Yep. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. That's we've got the total numbers.
No.
So I'm going to give you 44 against 5. And 18 not voted. Yep.
Yeah. All right, members, I've got the result here. Thank you. The result of the vote is as follows. Those in favour is 44. Those are against 5. And 5 against. And 18 not voted. And 18 not voted. And there is only abstentions. Thank you. So I will now. The recommendation is carried. So thank you. I'll now move to the next item. Thank you, members. I will now move to the next item. Move on to item 12, any urgent business? No, we haven't received any urgent business. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everyone, for attending and watching. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the evening.
There's a rhythm and rush these days.